Today I'm going to share with you my plant wish list. Most of these are plants that I have never grown before. There are a handful we're going to talk about later on in today's video that I have grown in the past that have since been put out to pasture that I would love to try growing again, so I had to talk about them in today's video. We're going to be joined by Little Miss Muffin today because I'm using my laptop, and if my computer is involved, Muffin needs to be here to get between me and the laptop. It's kind of her thing at this point. But yeah, today's video is going to be separated into a couple of categories. There's going to be plants that were on my wish list for a long time, plants that are kind of newer to my wish list, plants that specifically I saw at the Philadelphia Flower Show, because that is where I get the bulk of my inspiration for plants that I would like to add to my collection. And of course, as I mentioned, plants that I don't grow anymore that I would love to grow again. Muffin, it is so great to see you getting settled in right in the spot where you make things most difficult. Love you, little girl. The first category we're gonna go over today is plants that have been on my wish list for a really long time. I have been collecting houseplants since 2016, 2015? 2014? Oh my God, 2014? Oh my God, that's disgusting. That's like 12 years ago. It is 12 years ago. Ugh. Anyway, I've been collecting houseplants for a decent amount of time, and there are some plants that I have just never added to my wish list, mainly because at the time, you know, the plant market's very different in today's climate than it was back then. These plants were impossible to get your hands on, so I just didn't have the opportunity, and some of these are still kind of difficult to get your hands on. Some of them are more accessible. It all depends. Each plant's going to be different. Each one's gonna have its own unique flavor, let's say. But yeah, the first one we're going to talk about today is one that has been on my wish list for a very, very long time, and that is the Aglaonema modestum variegata. The common name for this plant is the spilt milk Aglaonema, and I grow the regular Aglaonema modestum in my home. It is a very classic houseplant. If I'm not mistaken, it was more common years ago, but now it's not something I've ever once seen for sale in a store. I don't even know where to buy it right now. The plain Aglaonema modestum I have in my home is from a greenhouse website, Glass Houseworks, that doesn't even exist anymore. So I can't even imagine where to get the Aglaonema modestum for a decent price right now, or the variegata specifically at a decent price. Most of these pictures that I am going to be sharing with you today are from the internet, from Reddit, or from plant stores. I will, of course, give credit where credit is due. If there is no photo credit, it means it's a photo I took myself. But there aren't a lot of variegated Aglaonemas out there. I mean, technically, all the patterns on Aglaonema is variegation, but I mean that classic houseplant enthusiast variegation with the classic white splashing all throughout the leaves. Spilt milk is a really great name for this Chinese evergreen or Aglaonema. Very fitting. And it is a rather easy to grow Aglaonema, the plain Aglaonema modestum. It's not very fast growing. I mean, Chinese evergreens across the board, very slow growing houseplants. Modestum has been very, very slow growing in comparison to the other ones, so I would imagine a variegated version would be extremely slow growing, but it really is a beautiful Chinese evergreen that I don't see people talk about ever, don't see sold on any plant websites, and I would love to get one. But at this point in my life, it's just something I kind of appreciate from afar, because it just seems so inaccessible. The next plant on my wish list is going to be the Ficus villosa. This is a fuzzy, creeping sort of ficus. The leaves look very similar to a Ficus repens, the classic little creeping fig plant, but times 10 in size, maybe times 50 in size. They're much bigger and they're very fuzzy, and you can see from this photo that I took from a plant that was for sale at the Philadelphia Flower Show that I did not purchase for some reason, that it just gets this very autumn leaf kind of gradient to it, with the new leaves being red, amber, and the older leaves being deep olive green. I probably did not have my IKEA greenhouse cabinet when I took this photo, because otherwise I probably would have gotten it, because it would have taken over that thing by now. It is known for growing very well in high humidity environments, like a terrarium or an IKEA greenhouse cabinet. But I probably wouldn't try growing it outside those conditions. Ficus are very finicky. Creeping fig in particular is like a plant that if you forget to water it for even just like a day, the whole thing crisps up, and it's not the kind of crisp up like that it recovers from. It's just gone once it does. Once it crosses that threshold, there's just no turning back. So I have had apprehension bringing home a Ficus villosa before, but now that I have the IKEA greenhouse cabinet and my other cabinet that I could grow it in if I didn't want to plant it directly into the moss. But I just didn't bite the bullet when I obviously had the opportunity to do so, and I literally have not seen it sold in stores since then. It's not an inexpensive plant either. I think it was like $30 to $35 for a 4-inch pot when I did find it in this photo here. So it is a little bit of an investment for a small plant that's not like, you know, a philodendron or an anthurium that's going to give you these beautiful large leaves that are going to be, or at least feel, worth the price. So missed opportunity there, I guess. Would love to get my hands on it. I'm looking at this one now. I'm like, what was I thinking? It's gorgeous. I can't believe I passed up an opportunity like that. It would have been like I might have said, I don't think I had the IKEA greenhouse cabinet when I was at the Philadelphia Flower Show when they had these available. But if I did, I missed out. Let me tell you, there is muffin fur all over the place. I'm surprised she's left us for now. She's just on the floor giving herself a bath. But the next plant on my wish list is going to be the blue oil fern. I was first introduced to this many years ago. One of the plant stores that was, I don't think it exists anymore, that was in the area of the plant store that I worked at, had one in one of their like large vivariums, and it was beautiful, and with the light shining on it, you could really see why they called it a blue oil fern. If it's under regular light, it just kind of looks like a green, strappy little plant, but under the right light, and you can kind of see in the photo here, it does have this kind of like blue iridescence to it, in a more visible way than like the begonia pavonina, which went kind of viral a couple years ago for its like blue iridescence, but that's like only if you're shining flash on it. This one, you look at it under the right light and it just is blue. Also, the fact that it's literally a fern, it's a microsorum, so that's like, is that like a kangaroo paw fern? I don't know. There's a couple, it doesn't matter. There's a couple ferns that are very closely related to this plant that don't look anything like it, and are much more of that like classic thin-leaved fern, but this is thick like a Hoya, and that makes me feel like it would probably be a little bit more easygoing. I know it does require high humidity, and I'll admit, anytime I've seen these sold in stores, they don't usually look that good. So I would probably want to order it online from a greenhouse that I know it's been growing in like really good conditions, and then immediately put it in like the wall in the moss of my one IKEA greenhouse cabinet that's all planted up, or just grow it in its pot inside one of my other cabinet situations or enclosures to keep the humidity up. So don't let this plant fool you. Even though it has this like thick, leathery appearance, you do still definitely need to give it high humidity for it to thrive. And this one is much more accessible now. It's on practically every plant store website that I shop from for like anywhere from $20 to $25 compared to like $75 when I first saw this plant. That's a lot more accessible now. So it's just a matter of time before I add one of these to my collection. Haven't bit the bullet yet, but once I figure out what exactly I want to do with it or where I want to put it, I think the time will come. The next plant that has been on my wish list for a very, very long time is Philodendron sodiroi, whatever you want to call it is fine with me. This is a very beautiful philodendron. It has more of that classic large, like heart-shaped leaf philodendron, kind of with the similar leaf variegation of the Philodendron brantianum, or like almost like a Scindapsus pictus in a way. I have seen this one featured by like plenty of aroid collectors ever since like 2018. This one has been on my list for a while. Almost bought it a couple times when I was much newer to houseplants, which I'm fortunate that I didn't do because I know I would have killed it by now. Now I'm a little bit more seasoned, let's say, so I trust that I could grow this. And I did get my fix very slightly with a Philodendron majestic that I got recently. That is a combination or a hybrid of Philodendron sodiroi and Philodendron verrucosum. I'm chuckling a little bit when I say that because if you watch the unboxing video where I got it, it was not in very good condition, but it's still alive, it's hanging on. It looks better than it did in that unboxing video. So I'm kind of getting my fill from that plant right now, so I don't need a Philodendron sodiroi anytime soon. But if that plant does ever kick the bucket, I will absolutely be replacing it with one of these. It is now much more accessible. I see them sold like much smaller. I remember there was one website I saw recently with like very full 4-inch pots of this plant. It didn't look anything like this photo because the plant was much younger. It looked a lot more like a Philodendron brantianum in the photo. This photo is much more what I'm used to seeing on like Instagram and stuff. But if I was gonna bring home a new Philodendron that gets like those like large or at least medium sized leaves, I don't think this one gets as large as other ones. The Philodendron sodiroi would be the one that I wanna bring home. I've always wanted to try growing the Euphorbia obesa. I was first introduced to this on a Facebook page. There used to be like a Philadelphia plant exchange Facebook page. It might still exist. I haven't been on Facebook for like 8 years now, but I remember somebody had one of these and me always looking at it thinking like, that's a Euphorbia. Euphorbias don't look anything like that. Euphorbia are so cool and I have such an appreciation for them because they all look so vastly different, kind of like Peperomia plants. One of my favorite groups of plants to collect. They all look so different from one another. I would say Euphorbia take that the extra mile for how different they look from one another. Some are like leafy houseplants while others are literally just like a succulent or a cactus. So much variety. So cool. The reason why I don't have 1,000 Euphorbia in my home is 1, space, 2, money, but 3, most importantly, my cat. They're very poisonous. The latex inside them is extremely poisonous. It could cause you to go blind if you get it in your eyes, so it's not something you want to take lightly. Euphorbia obesa obviously is not like a leafy Euphorbia. That would be much more concerning for if like my cat chewed on that. That would be not good at all. This obviously from its appearance does not get that way. I mean, it could grow little leaflets. I don't really know enough about this plant to say, but some euphorbias grow little tiny little leaflets. I've seen this one sold, I think they had it at Terrain for like $125 for tiny little plants. Terrain's owned by like Urban Outfitters. I would not recommend supporting them with your money unless you absolutely have to, which I don't see why you would. But I've seen this sold online from plenty of purveyors for like $10 to $20 for the size plant that I would want. And I literally have, I don't know if you can see behind me here, but in my little cacti selection, I already have a little pot ready to go and a little tiny Euphorbia obesa, like a little like 1.5 inch size Euphorbia obesa would look so perfect in here. But the plant does grow, so it wouldn't be able to live in there forever. I need to keep that in mind. They will get a little bit more obese, as the name suggests, over time. So super fun plant. I would love to add one to my collection, and I foresee myself adding one to my collection sometime soon. I can tell you that. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the section of my wish list that is newer additions to my wish list. So plants that I have seen more recently. By more recently, I'm gonna say within like the last 2 years, maybe. I have seen Sonerila plants a lot over the last, not a lot, a bit over the last decade, but I've never really paid them much mind, which is wild because they're so beautiful. Part of it is because I know they are terrarium plants through and through, and you really cannot grow these outside of that environment. That's where my IKEA greenhouses come into play. I have been noticing these a lot more than I normally do, and I've been thinking, gee, that would be a real beautiful plant to try growing in my home, and I feel like sometime soon I might do it. What kind of Sonerila, you ask? I don't know. That's why I just have Sonerila spa on screen today. I don't even know what variety this one is. It's just one that came up when I typed in Sonerila Reddit on Google. But it is very gorgeous and absolutely a contender. They just have these really gorgeous leaves that, I mean, very terrarium coated, as you can see, not only with their care, but with their appearance. They look like they're meant to be kept inside like a glass cloche or grown amongst the moss. And there are so many different kinds of this. This is just one variety that I found, but there are plenty more out there. And yeah, I just never bit the bullet on them because they aren't, I'm not gonna say they're expensive because they're not expensive, but they're not cheap. They're usually like $20 to $40 depending on the variety for like a 4-inch pot, maybe even smaller. They're not mainstream houseplants at all. For some reason, they're gorgeous. Calathea are gorgeous and hard to grow, but these are gorgeous and hard to grow. Why can't they be mainstream? They're arguably more pretty than Calathea plants. I think we could all agree on that. I don't know if we would all agree on that, but the real ones would agree on that. But I'm just looking at this photo right now and I'm like, that is a very, very beautiful houseplant. I would love to try growing one of these. I need to do a little bit more research before I even consider bringing one home. It's gonna happen soon, I can tell you that. Scindapsus, Treubii species Sumatra. This is one I've seen only on Gabriella Plant's website. I'm sure they sell on other websites. I just haven't really sought it out, but when I'm perusing, when I'm doing my nightly perusing and I click on Gabriella Plants and I'm scrolling and perusing, I see this plant every time and I'm like, that is just such a beautiful version of Scindapsus treubii. I recently added the Scindapsus treubii Moonlight Variegata to my collection and I really enjoy it, and I just love Scindapsus overall. But Scindapsus treubii has always caught my eye ever since the Moonlight and the Dark form just like made their appearance, their grand debut in like 2018 or so. They have just really caught my eye. I don't really know what it is about it, but this like silver streaking on the foliage with that deep green, you can't tell me that is not just stunning. And I can't really tell how big the leaves are. That might be a smaller pot. The leaves are probably around the same size as a normal Scindapsus treubii Moonlight. This does look like they are a little bit bigger. I don't think they are. I think that's just a small pot. If they were bigger, that would make it even better. But yeah, realistically, it's the same size, and I would love to add it to my collection. It's like $40 for a small pot, so I haven't gone ahead and added it to my collection yet. Maybe down the line, it's something I would like to add because it is very unique, and I love my unique Scindapsus plants. So this one, in due time, I could totally see myself adding it to my collection, and I want it. Every time I see it, I want it. I just don't get it. I don't know, I just don't. I've recently gained an appreciation for carnivorous plants. I've been trying to grow them over the last year and a half. My first bout with them, my first 2 bouts with them, extremely unsuccessful, let me tell you. But I have learned since then what to do. I feel like when I made my bog garden, that was my epiphany on like how to properly care for carnivorous plants. I've never like drowned plants before, but that's what carnivorous plants want. They want to be sitting in water constantly. They don't want a drainage hole. They don't want porous pot material. They don't want terracotta. They just want to be sitting in the equivalent of a pond with soil. A pond with soil. I mean, ponds have soil. You know what I mean. And I've stumbled upon, when I do my perusing, a type of sundew or Drosera that I just think is next level, and that is the Drosera regia. It has these large leaves as far as sundews go. They're not like large like a monstera, but compared to all the other sundews I'm familiar with, these have much larger leaves, and the like I don't know what to call it. The carnivorous part of the leaf is like the whole leaf. It's quite incredible. They are a little expensive. I think I've seen them range from like $30 to $50, maybe give or take a little bit. I don't know exactly. So I've never gone ahead and bit the bullet on that. I don't trust myself enough yet. I need to try out a couple more varieties before I splurge on an expensive variety of Drosera. But I have one sundew in particular in our bedroom that has been thriving, and it's just the plain Drosera spatulata, the most classic, common sundew that's out there. And now that that's thriving for me, I'm like, okay, I can try out a couple more varieties, and then once I can prove myself with those, that's when I can go ahead and get the Drosera regia. So I'm not gonna be adding it to my collection anytime soon. But one day this is absolutely going to be joining my arsenal of carnivorous plants. The fungus gnats won't be able to handle it. They won't be able to handle my carnivorous plants, let me tell you. Speaking of carnivorous plants, Venus flytraps, they have really been catching my eye lately. This is, I wanna say like the most elementary plant in my mind, because it was like in 3rd grade, I feel like we all got like a spider plant and a Venus flytrap and we had to grow them, blah, blah, blah. And it just felt like very not interesting to me as an adult, as a plant that's just like pushed on children. I don't know why. That's just me and how my brain works. But I've recently gained an appreciation for them, mainly because of my bog garden, my carnivorous plant bog garden that I have. A Dionaea, I forget what the species name is, it begins with M, and it's been growing very well ever since I've moved the grow light situation around there. Its leaves have been getting a lot more red, like the picture that you see here with this Dionaea Fused Tooth Extreme, which is a plant that I see when I'm perusing online. Most of these in my new section of my wish list are from my nightly perusing on the shop app, if you have not picked up already. But I really love this Fused Tooth Extreme. There's a couple other varieties that look very similar that would also scratch that itch for me if I'm being real. But the teeth on the plant, as you can see, are just very extreme, is a good word for it, as the variety name suggests. It's like the teeth have, as also the name suggests, fused together, which is probably exactly what happened. And that's why they look so much bigger and more pronounced. And I feel like this, along with the classic Venus flytrap that I have in my home, would just satiate my need for growing Venus flytraps. Just this one fun variety, chef's kiss, that's all I need. It would do it, all the feels would be felt. I'm gonna have to add that one to my collection soon. And it's not very expensive. It's like $25. It's probably very small when you get it. And Venus flytraps go in and out of dormancy. Like during the summer, they will go off, and then during the winter, they'll kind of die back. So it ebbs and flows. You just gotta accept that. It's just like life, you know what I mean? But yeah, I would love to add that one to my collection. One we saw recently, I'm pretty sure in one of my online plant shopping videos, is this Spathiphyllum sensation Aurea variegata. This photo is from Rare Foliage Plant Co., which I did do a shopping and unboxing video with them, and I did not get this plant because it's $200. I don't trust myself to spend $200 on a plant in general right now, but $200 on a peace lily. Peace lilies and me have not gotten along behavior-wise. Love them aesthetically, specifically the Spathiphyllum sensation, the regular one. Always reminds me of when my family and I would go to Florida growing up. It was like the one plant that I always noticed with the big, beautiful green, deep matte leaves and the large white flowers. It was just the one plant I would always notice. And I always wanted to grow one, but my parents wouldn't let me get houseplants when I was younger because we had cats and they would chew in them or something, or pee in the plant. I literally don't remember, but now that I'm an adult, obviously I have taken that to the extreme by having over 200 houseplants in my home. So take that, mom and dad. But if I had an endless amount of money and the perfect environment, I would get the Spathiphyllum sensation Aurea variegata. If I ever won the lottery, you would be able to tell because I would randomly have acquired a Spathiphyllum sensation Aurea variegata. It's a very beautiful plant. It almost looks fake. Like that almost looks like an AI generated photo, which not good, but it's not. It's definitely a real photo. It just looks a little too good to be true. But you can see a little bit of brown on that leaf. If you look careful on the left, there's a little bit of brown, so you know she's real. You know she goes through the struggle just like us girls do. But yeah, I can't in good faith like ever add this plant to my collection, but so gorgeous. If money was no object and I had literally no concern about just spending that money, regardless of it being no object, on something I'm probably gonna kill, I guess that's when I would go ahead and add the Spathiphyllum sensation Aurea variegata to my collection. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to probably my favorite section of today's video, which is going to be the wish list plants that I have learned about from the Philadelphia Flower Show. I have done a couple videos in the past on going to the Philadelphia Flower Show, and you might be hearing flower show. I don't care about flowers, but my favorite part of the Philadelphia Flower Show is the plant competition. People from my area submit their plants to be judged from, I don't know who, but people, very judgmental people probably, and there's just, I want to say thousands. It feels like thousands, realistically probably hundreds, but let's say like 1,000 houseplants just all in one area, and there's just so many plants to look at of so many different varieties. And every year I go, I'm taking pictures of all these plants, and I gotta, there's just so many beautiful plants, and they all just go on my wish list essentially because they're so beautiful. The first Philadelphia Flower Show wishlist plant that I want to talk about is the Spathiphyllum ivanportillae. I really don't know how to pronounce this one. So I saw this one probably in like 2020, 2021. No, it was like 2021 or 2022 because it's when the flower show was in its COVID mode, and it was at FDR Park in South Philadelphia. It's usually at the convention center, but for 2 years they had it at FDR Park in South Philadelphia, just, you know, to make do with the times. And one of those years I saw this Spathiphyllum ivanportillae. We just talked about my love of Spathiphyllums from when I was younger, of the large, beautiful, matte leaves. Well, what about these tiny, tiny, equally matte as they are glossy leaves that are like super dark? That is what this plant has to offer. I don't know why, it just really caught my eye. The little tiny flowers were cute too, but I honestly just care about the foliage. And I know that this is available from like a couple of those like international sellers. So I know this is available, and I've heavily considered adding this to my collection because it is like $30 or so, I would say, for what I would consider to be a decently rare houseplant. And just after seeing it in person, I'm like, I know I want to add it to my home. I love that it's a small plant. I love small plants because, hello, I mean, you can't really see from here, but I have a lot of plants. So I like plants that don't take up a lot of room and don't grow large ever. After a few years is kind of one of the best traits that a plant can have, in my opinion, at this point. So this is one I would really like to add to my collection. I don't think I have any peace lilies right now, and this would be like the one peace lily for me to try growing. It's just very cool, very niche. Nobody probably cares about this plant because one, it's a peace lily, but two, it's not like the most aesthetically striking plant, I guess, but I think it's super neat, and that's all that matters. The next plant from the Philadelphia Flower Show is Platycerium ridleyii. So I had heard about this Platycerium before. It wasn't until I saw it at the Philadelphia Flower Show where I realized I need this. And this one's a more recent addition to my list. This picture is from the flower show this year, so I just took this one within the past couple of months, and it was in like this giant like acrylic box because the humidity needs to be kept high, so probably a reason why I shouldn't be bringing it home unless I'm growing it inside like one of my cabinets. But I do just have such a growing appreciation for Platycerium or staghorn ferns ever since my one that I've been growing for years, and now that I've added a couple more to my collection, I just feel the joy that is growing these very interesting, intricate houseplants. Would I ever actually add a Platycerium ridleyii to my collection? Probably not, because like I said, they're difficult to grow. Also, they're pretty expensive. I think we saw them for like $80 recently from one of my online plant shopping videos, and $80 for something I think I'm literally just gonna kill, at least in my current stage of plant care, plant parenthood. Yeah, that's just not gonna happen. But we have to talk about Platycerium ridleyii today, because if I had a greenhouse and $1 million, I would have a Platycerium ridleyii. It's how you would know. Another plant from the Philadelphia Flower Show that I see every year for the last, well, I've been going to the flower show for 8 years. Every year, I feel like the same person just brings the same plant. Hupuerzia or Lycopodiums. I don't really know the difference. I mean, Hupuerzias are Lycopodiums, but it's like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle's not a square or something like that. I don't really know. Anyway, they are a type of like club moss. So they call them, or maybe I just call them ferns, but they're not ferns, or tassel ferns they call them, but they're not ferns. I think that's, yeah, that's where we're gonna land. They are very interesting houseplants. They are most often grown in like hanging basket situations. This one in this picture is growing in a Vanda basket, so a very fun way to grow your houseplants that can grow in this manner. This one is completely overgrown. I would never imagine one in my possession to look like this. And these used to be extremely inaccessible. You would have to buy them from overseas, and they are not known for shipping well, if I remember. So yeah, you'd have to kind of risk it, spending a lot of money on something that you don't even know if it would arrive in good conditions. I've been seeing these now sold from people on like Etsy and the Shop app for like $50 to $60 for a 4-inch pot, which, considering how far we've come, I think, I'm not gonna call it inexpensive because it's not, but it's almost worth it, I think is what we're gonna call it. I think I'm at the point where I would really like to try growing one of these. I envision myself growing one inside my tall IKEA greenhouse cabinet and like hanging it inside there and just at least starting it in there before I move it out into my home if I think it's gonna be able to handle it. I haven't decided what kind of Hupuerzia or Lycopodium I would wanna grow, so that's why I haven't really done it yet. There's a couple to choose from that I keep seeing, so decisions. But someone commented on one of my videos recently saying how they are actually very easy to grow and very pest resilient. And that might have been the push that I needed to go ahead and finally bring one of these home. So I think it's time. I've been eyeing these up for like 5+ years at this point. I mean, longer than that, but I never actually considered getting one until like 5 years ago, and then it's just like not worth it. But now it's worth it, I think. All right, and Sinningia are absolutely a plant that is on my wish list, mostly from the Philadelphia Flower Show. I'm gonna say I first learned about Sinningia from, there is a lady out in the suburbs who has a greenhouse and grows all these plants, and she grows some Sinningia, and the Sinningia bullata is the one that she grows, and I just think it is such a cool houseplant. It gets these very, very green leaves. It almost just looks like an alopecia that's very green, but it grows from a tuber, and it gets this like cottony appearance like on the stems. So unique, so cool. We love unique houseplants. We love uniqueness. We love character. And this is a plant that is accessible. This is a plant that is like $15 to $20 on most websites. I just haven't gotten it. I don't know why. Don't ask me why, because I don't know. There's another Sinningia, forget the name. I think the species name starts with L. That's much more silvery leaves and very, very furry. That one, very cool too. I also see that one at the flower show every year, and I'm like, what am I doing without this plant? I need this plant in my life. But yeah, I just haven't bitten the bullet on Sinningia yet, but maybe I'm about to do so, because I'm realizing, what the hell am I waiting for? Like, I'm not getting any younger. And each day that goes by without a Sinningia is another day that goes by without a Sinningia. So maybe it's time that the day comes where I get a Sinningia. They are gesneriads, so they're like closely related to lipstick plants, apicias, African violets, Asian violets. And that's just a group of plants overall that is very underappreciated. So yeah, I gotta give her credit where credit is due. Really cool houseplant. Ooh, okay, so ever since my first flower show that I went to in 2018, I'm pretty sure, I saw a Haworthia truncata, and I've never needed anything so much in my life. I have needed it so much that I just never bought one. It's been another plant that's been kind of inaccessible, and then I guess maybe I just never looked for it, perhaps, because when I did actually start looking for it on like Etsy and the shop app, I'm like, okay, I have a couple different choices if I actually do want to get one. The one in the photo here is a variegated Haworthia truncata. I think I'd rather just get a plain one. One, because both are cool, and two, because the variegated ones are like 3 or 4 times the price of the non-variegated ones, so I'd rather just start fresh with a non-variegated Haworthia truncata. Once again, a very unique houseplant. The tops of the leaves, if you can kind of see, are like, there's a name for this. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but they're like windows into the leaves. So you can literally like see inside the leaves. It's crazy. And with the variegated versions, on the parts of those that are white, super cool, but it's good enough, like I said, but just the plain version. So this is a plant I would really like to add to my collection soon. I've waited like 8 years for this, 9 years for this, 8 years for this. I think it's about time I get myself a Haworthia truncata. So I think I'm gonna get myself a Haworthia truncata soon. Stay tuned for when I get myself a Haworthia truncata, because you best believe it's going to be happening in the near future. Another Haworthia that my eyes were opened to at the Philadelphia Flower Show, Haworthia limifolia variegata. This is commonly referred to as the fairy tale washboard Haworthia. Is that what they call it? Or is it I don't know. It's something along those lines. And this is the variegated version of that. I've tried growing the plain green version years ago. Great houseplant, super resilient. I probably just put it somewhere super dark and watered it too much, or just never watered it ever, because I'm guilty of doing that every once in a while. The variegated version, super cool. Another plant that I've been seeing available on plant purveyors, plant websites for a decent price, like $25 or less for a variegated houseplant, and one that is very cool looking. Like this one right here has a little too much variegation. This is a picture that I took from the Philadelphia Flower Show at some point over the last 8 years. I don't think I would want mine to be as all yellow as this. I'd want it to be able to photosynthesize at least a titch. But yeah, one that looks like the bottom half of the plant on the right would be ideal for me. Thank you. But yeah, this is another one I think I'm gonna add into my home soon. I've been thinking about doing a little succulent collection going on in our bedroom in one of our windows. We have a lot of space in the bedroom for plants, and I've just been, taking my time adding things, because there was a point in my life when I had 450 houseplants. I don't want 450 houseplants again, but this is, my career, this is my hobby, this is my life. So if I want more plants, I can get more plants. I can do whatever I want. Another Euphorbia that we're going to talk about on my wish list is Euphorbia abdelkuri. So I'm not positive if this one in the photo is exactly that, because there are so many euphorbias that have similar names or similar appearances and blah, 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 blah. I would like a euphorbia that either looks like the one on the photo or looks like, if you Google euphorbia, Abdelkiri. Either one is good enough for me. They look similar enough, so I'm just including this picture on screen. It looks like a cactus, but it looks dead, but it's supposed to look that way. Like the foliage is like green and like scabby and like zombified looking. A very cool houseplant, very unique. We love that uniqueness, we love that character, and Euphorbia Abdelkiri has that uniqueness and she has that character. We love Euphorbia Abdelkiri. I don't really have much else to say about it other than it's just a really cool plant. I would love to add it to my collection. And it's one of those euphorbias that isn't as hazardous. I mean, still hazardous. We need to drive that home, that euphorbia is very, very poisonous houseplants. You need to be very careful if you have pets or children and you're gonna have them around these plants. This is not one that is going to concern me if I were to have it around my cat, just from the way the plant is built. I think you all see where I'm getting at here. It's not a plant that your cat's gonna go over and just chew on. And if your cat would just go on and chew on this, I got some questions for you. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the last section of my wish list video, which is plants that I have once grown that I am no longer growing in the present day. So Monstera Peru is a plant that I added to my collection, as you can see, back in 2019 when it was very hard to get your hands on. I spent way too much money on that. I think I spent like $60 or $70 on this little 4-inch pot that you see right here, which at the time felt like a good price for it. Nowadays, you can get a 4-inch pot for $15. So that's good to know. Wish I could go back in time and tell myself that. But I do not have this $70 Monstera species Peru in my care anymore. What happened? I think I did not put them in the best spots. I would put them at like the bottom of a shelf or like in the corner of a room. I fully remember. It was my fault. Now I know what I'm doing. So I would love to add one to my collection. And I really just haven't stumbled upon them recently. They used to sell them quite often at the local farmer's market that's right around the corner from me. And I haven't seen them recently, and I just don't live by any plant stores right now. So there's just nowhere else to go. I have to buy them online, and I've just not bought one online, because I feel like normally I'll see like a 4-inch pot with just like one plant in the pot for like $15. And I'm like, yes, that's a better deal than this $70 plant that I got years ago. But like, I kind of want like 2 or 3 in the pot, but I also don't really want to get a 6-inch pot. I'm asking for a lot here, I realize. And that's why I don't currently have a Monstera species Peru. So let's move on to the next one. Ooh, Peperomia turboensis. Beautiful Peperomia. I'm a huge fan of Peperomias, as I mentioned. I collect them. They all look so different from one another, and that's what I really love about them. Also, pet-friendly houseplants. We talked about Euphorbia being very different, but very poisonous. Peperomia are very different from one another, but pet-friendly, so you don't have to worry about that poisonous, dangerous aspect with these. Peperomia turboensis looks very similar to like a watermelon peperomia, but it grows in like a vining manner, as you can see from this photo that I have here of one that I grew in the past. I grew this one inside a glass cloche. I know I'm holding it up here as if it just lives its life like this outside. I mean, it's dead now, but as if it lived its life like this, but it was fully grown inside a glass cloche. If I remember correctly, it overgrew inside that glass cloche to the point that I had to take it out of the glass cloche, and that is where she met her demise. I think I might have tried it again at some point, and once again, she's no longer with us. But now that I have my greenhouse cabinets, I would think about growing this one inside one of them, preferably in the one with the moss. I think this plant would look great just like growing amongst the moss, like halfway up the wall or in the upper quarter of the wall up closer to the grow light, where its color could really get like nice and gray. Super cool Peperomia. I do see this available. I could totally get my hands on it again for like $15 for a 4-inch pot. So they're not asking for a lot from Miss Peperomia turboensis. Just haven't really bit the bullet on that. At some point, I'll probably order one, or if I ever do randomly stumble across one in person, you know damn well in that moment I would be snatching her up. Let's not even joke for a second. Ooh, okay, Dischidia nummularia. I have technically grown the plain Dischidia nummularia for a very brief stint because that thing died in like 7 days. It must have seen the video because it died so fast, it was crazy. I did have a Dischidia nummularia variegata for a couple of years. If I remember correctly, I grew it on a mount. It is dead, as you could imagine, at this point as well, but it held on for a couple of years. I need to remind you that. Yeah, at this point, I don't really know what went wrong with either of those, but I would love to try growing Dischidia numularia again. I think really the reason why I haven't brought it home, well, one, I almost bought one recently, if you watched that video, and then it was sold out by the time I actually went to order it, so that is one reason why I currently don't have it in my collection. But two, it's done me dirty on several occasions, so can I really invest? Well, it's not that expensive. Can I spend money on a plant knowing that? Very waringly, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I have to be wary. I gotta be wary if I'm gonna do it. So yeah, she has not made her way back into my collection. Will she at some point? You best believe, because I really like this plant. I just love the like plain green circles. It's just beautiful. I love it. It's like what I wish Peperomia Hope looked like, but unfortunately she doesn't. So I gotta get my fix with this. And right now I'm getting my fix from this photo since I don't have her in my home, but at some point she will come home. I'm probably gonna get just a small pot, like a little 2-inch pot was what I wanted to get before, because I don't trust myself with this much. I just can't do it. I won't do it. But at some point, like I said 6 times now, she's gonna join me and my houseplant collection, because I am what? Weak. I'm weak, and I'm gonna bring home the plant at some point because I just have to. I just have to have the plant. I know you all relate. Don't lie to me. Ooh, Piper crocatum. They used to call this Piper ornatum. You can still call it whatever you want. I really don't care. This I got a cutting of from that lady I was talking about with the Sinningias. Oh, she looked so sad for like a couple of weeks when she was starting to root, and then she finally grew some roots and she came back to life, and she grew so well for me. For a couple of years, I had this really gorgeous Piper crocatum, Piper ornatum, whatever you want to call it, with these beautiful pink leaves. One of the most beautiful houseplants I have ever grown in my collection, hands down. At some point after a few years, this photo was taken in 2019, I think sometime in like 2021 or 2022, I went to repot her. I thought I was doing her a favor. She had been living in the same pot for a couple of years. Within like a week, the whole thing died. No idea what I even did wrong, did not change the conditions whatsoever, just changed the pot. But she was clearly happy in the conditions she was in prior, and she showed me that by literally kicking the bucket. So I no longer have a Piper crocatum in my home. I did buy one from the Philadelphia Flower Show a few years ago. I forget if it was like $15, $20, or $25. It was somewhere in that range. So an appropriate range for this plant that used to cost a lot of money. Did it grow for me like at all? No. I think the whole thing just slowly died within a couple of months after bringing it home. So yeah, I don't have this plant in my home anymore because I only had good luck with it that one time. I would love to try growing this plant again, but after purchasing it and then bringing it home and putting it in good conditions, I put it in one of my cabinets underneath the grow light, and that just clearly wasn't good enough for her because she is a diva. She let me have it, so now I can't have it. And I'm just dealing with the repercussions. Ooh, okay, so Peperomia Pink Lady. I think they often sell this as like Peperomia caparata or like Ripple Pink Lady. I think this is technically Peperomia Grisio Argenta Pink Lady. So a little bit different leaves than your classic Ripple. If you look carefully and closely, you will see, I guarantee you. And she gets this beautiful pink variegation that is like no other with Peperomias. This hit the market clearly in like 2019, as I'm seeing from the timestamp on this Instagram photo of mine. I remember having it in stock for a period of time when I was a buyer and bringing this one home from the store that I worked at and seeing it at other stores. So it was out there, and I don't think I've seen it recently. I think I've seen Peperomia Pink Lady on like rare plant websites for like $50 plus for like a 2-inch pot, which I cannot do. I will never spend more than $20 on a Peperomia. I think maybe I spent like, no, I think it was 20. I was gonna say maybe I spent 25 on the maculosa because she was expensive as far as Peperomias go, but never, ever in my life would I spend more than $20 on a Peperomia. They are not worth it. Do not get scammed. So it seems like my dream of growing a Peperomia Pink Lady might be not happening, at least for a while, until something happens. But yeah, I don't know. This is just one of those cases of a plant, just like the Aglaonema chocolate, as I talk about every once in a while, of a plant that was on the market very readily at one point in time that suddenly is just nowhere to be found. And I don't know why. I don't know if it was grower's choice, if it was lack of demand, if it was disease, if it was something else at where it was originally grown, the tissue culture plant or the grow operation. I literally don't even know. I literally don't even know. But there's a reason why, and I can't tell you. But I would love to know, because I would love to know what the tea is and how I could possibly get my hands on the Peperomia pink lady for an appropriate price. Because she's stunning, and I'm going to be thinking about this Peperomia for probably the rest of my life. Syngonium erythrophyllum Llano Carti Rd. Sometimes they sell this as Syngonium red arrow lately. I don't know what the tea is with that. I don't know why. I don't know who. But I don't know where Llano Carti Rd is. It's a place, I'm assuming. This is a beautiful Syngonium with very leathery leaves, very dark leaves, as you can see. They kind of go back and forth between like that like navy blackness that like the Scindapsus treubii dark form has, and like that deep olive green that some other houseplants get. And the undersides of the leaves, as you can kind of see with the new leaves that are unfurling in my Instagram photo, they get this beautiful burgundy color to them, very like burgundy, like light wine red, I want to say. Like, oh, it's just a very, very beautiful houseplant to grow in your home. I was going to say grow as like a trailer, so you can like see it from like all angles. Really fantastic houseplant that is available now. The only reason I don't have it is because I just haven't bought one. I think this is more accessible than ever right now. I feel like it did go through a like very quick period of being like super expensive and super hard to find, and now suddenly it's everywhere, sold under both the Llano Carti Rd name and the red arrow. If there is a difference, I really don't know. It's probably like patenting, which is stupid. We hate that. But yeah, that's the story about that. Why don't I have one in my home currently? Because it's dead. I don't know what to tell you. Syngoniums are not the most maintainable houseplants. I was talking about this recently with the variegated Syngonium. Grown that one a couple times, and Syngoniums, in my experience, notoriously will only hold on to like, this one I guess like 4 or 5 leaves, the variegated one, like 2 or 3 leaves, but this one will hold on to like 4 or 5 leaves at the end of the vine, and then the rest of it is just like bare vine. And I don't know what, maybe I pay less attention to them because of that. I don't know what happens, but I don't have this one in my collection anymore, and I would love to add it back into my collection because, yeah, I want it. That's my reason, because I want it, okay? I don't really grow Syngoniums in my home anymore. I guess I have a Syngonium chiapense on the trellis, and I do have a Syngonium Wendlandii in the cabinet, but I used to have many more Syngoniums than that, and I just, like I said, don't find them to be the most maintainable houseplants. But I think I'm at the point, again, where I would like to try growing the Syngonium erythrophyllum in my home. It just adds a lot with that color. The deep green and the reds are both colors that you don't find very often with houseplants, so you kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone right there with this plant. Where would I put it in my home? I don't really know. That's another reason why I don't have one in my home right now. But once I do find a spot for it, you best believe, just like all these other plants, I'm bringing one home. It is so great to see them for a much cheaper price now. If you're lucky, you could probably even find like a hanging basket at a big box store for like $15 to $20, but most often a 4-inch pot, it's gonna be like $15, which I think is still a great deal. And the last plant we're going to talk about in my plant wish list today is the Biophytum sensitivum. This is commonly referred to as the little tree plant. I used to grow this inside a glass cloche. I got mine from Logis, which is where this photo is from. And this photo is a very full pot of Biophytum sensitivum, but normally you just get one in the pot, and it literally looks just like a little tree, like a little fern tree, or if you like squint, it kind of looks like a palm tree from afar. And it's really good for growing inside terrariums. I grew mine inside a glass cloche until it literally like outgrew the glass cloche, and I think I took it off, and then it probably lived for like a week or 2 before the whole thing died. They are not drought tolerant houseplants. They need to stay moist at all times. So what I would like to do is get one and plant it in the moss wall in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet with all the moss and stuff, the one that's all done up. I think it would just really look good and grow well in there. You can't tell me that a little mini fern tree just growing out of the moss wall just wouldn't be like giving you all the feels, giving you the full experience of the chunk of the rainforest just plucked out of the forest and put into my IKEA cabinet. So that's the main reason why. It would also be fun to grow one inside a glass cloche separately. So maybe, do I want to get two? I mean, I'm not getting anything right now, obviously, but whenever I do get a Biophytum sensitivum to bring home, maybe I will consider getting two of them because they're not very expensive. I think they're like $12 to $15 for one plant. On Logi's website, you could probably find it available elsewhere. I will probably just get mine from Logi's because I like Logi's and I've had good experiences with them before. But yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I want one for the cabinet, but I also just want one for like a glass closed terrarium. Like maybe I could do a little terrarium similar to this where I just have some moss and like a stone and then a Biophytum sensitivum growing out. I'd have to get a bigger terrarium. Obviously, that was the issue I had with my one in the past where it outgrew the glass cloche and then I didn't really know what to do with it and then it died. So let's try to avoid that in the future, Nicholas. But yeah, super cool houseplant, one that people don't really talk about unless they are terrarium enthusiasts, which I feel like not a lot of houseplant collectors are. So yeah, it definitely deserves more attention. If you like plants that just look more natural, like a plant that you just like plucked out of the forest when you went on a walk, which don't do that, but if you want a plant that looks like that, Biophytum sensitivum is perfect for you. So that is my plant wish list. Are there more plants that are probably on my wish list that I just couldn't think of while I was writing up my wish list for today? Yes, probably. I like plants a lot. There are a lot of plants that I would love to add in my home. I'm also just being realistic in the fact that I already have over 200 plants. And Muffin, you've been on this whole video and now you're coming in to say hello at the very end. We got a muffin sandwich today. We started with muffin, we finished with muffin. But yeah, I love houseplants, but realistically, I just can't grow every single houseplant out there in my home as much as I would like to. It's just not possible. But I am always looking for new ways to fit more plants in my home, but not only fit more plants, but to be able to sustain those plants. You could technically put plants wherever you want, but if you can't properly take care of those plants, then what's the point? You're basically just paying for future garbage. So thank you so much for joining me today. I would love to hear your plant wish list. If there's any plants in particular that are on your wish list that you think I should know about, let me know in the comments. Or if there's any plants that I shared with you on my wish list that have now inevitably ended up on your wish list, let me know that as well because I'm pretty curious because all of these plants are pretty awesome house plants. It's kind of why they're on my wish list. Thank you again for joining me and I will see you guys next time. Have a great time.